Thank you all for joining the second Moonwell Community Call, April's Moonwell Community Call. Last month was our first. We're going to keep doing these on a monthly basis, and we are so glad that you are all here with us today. Alongside me today, we have, you know him, you love him, the one and only Luke Youngblood. He is head of engineering for Lunar Labs, founding contributors to Moonwell. I'm Eli or Majin, leading community for Lunar Labs. Luke will be interviewing Gokberk Gulgun, the director of security at Halborn Security. Halborn Security is another contributing team like Lunar Labs to Moonwell. And they audit every smart contract that comprises the Moonwell protocol. Any piece of code that goes live has probably had Gokberk's eyes on it at one point or another. So it's a privilege to have him on this call. And then we also have another special speaker with us. It is Cool Horse Girl. Cool Horse Girl has, she joined the Moonwell community a couple months ago and has put in some really important proposals, including MIP 39, which signaled the community's desire to activate the Moonwell protocol on base. And she currently has a proposal up to adjust the quorum model used on Moonwell Apollo. She is a self-described DeFi native, Taoist. She currently writes the Tally newsletter, and I'll drop a link to that in the chat here. It's a really great read if you're interested in leveling up your DAO knowledge. She's a fantastic writer. And Tally, interestingly, is, if you're not familiar with Tally, it's a governance dashboard that allows you to easily see ongoing proposals, past proposals, delegate information, even like a voting leaderboard. And Cool Horse Girl has taken the first steps to create one for Moonwell, as recently Tally now supports Moonbeam Network. It looks like they're having some technical issues, but we're hoping to get that live, or she's hoping to get that live soon. And yeah, it's an absolute privilege to have all y'all on the call with us and have these great guests with me today. So without further ado, Cool Horse Girl with updates from Moonwell governance.
Thanks, Eli. Hey guys, it's a bit early here in Southeast Asia, but I'll give a bit of an update really quick. So yeah, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Cool Horse Girl. I've been doing a few governance things behind the scenes at Moonwell, and then a bit more publicly with these proposals. My background is in content writing, usually, all the way from Index Coop, which makes structured DeFi products, to more like theoretical DAO stuff, like Tally, which is pretty cool. They're a decentralized governance platform. Eli did a pretty good description, better than I could do, honestly. So yeah, super excited to be here, keen on Moonwell. I'll cover a few recent proposals really quickly and try to drop some links in as we go. So I'm especially excited about MIP 39. That's the Activate Moonwell on Base mainnet. That passed overwhelmingly in favor with a 54 million to 1.4K well vote. I was also excited that the community recognized that I want to emphasize that this isn't an abandonment of the .sama ecosystem in any way, rather just expanding it to where I guess we as a community see great prospects across the ecosystem. For me, that's especially in tapping into Coinbase's ecosystem and user base. Should be good stuff. So this will go to an on-chain vote when base goes on mainnet. We don't know when this will be, and likely won't have too much of an advance notice, which makes it more exciting. So good surprise to look forward to this summer. Next, Gauntlet MIP 44 and 45. Markets have been unpaused. I'll put that link in the chat really quickly. Markets have been unpaused. And then with that, the MIP 44 included IR curve and parameter adjustments from the failed MIP 40, which didn't reach quorum. So this has been sorted now with 44 and 45 now passing. So in regards to this quorum situation, so The problem is that Gauntlet is submitting proposals on Apollo that aren't passing due to quorum requirements. But it's okay. We put up a solution as a current proposal. So I'll put that up right now. Quick debrief into sort of the quorum situation. So what is quorum? It's the minimum number of votes required for a governance proposal to pass. Protocols can make this anything they want. Typically, there's two systems. There's a static quorum or a floating quorum. So on Moonwell Artemis, they use static quorum. Most DAOs, Compound, where I've previously worked at InXCube, they all use static quorum. But Moonwell Apollo uses a floating quorum model. So in that one, the quorum increases after each successful vote and decreases when a vote doesn't reach the required quorum. However, in the past 5 months, this was once an ideal model, but in the past 5 months, quorum has jumped millions and millions of votes. I think now it's at 56 million, which is significantly higher than what's been seen as reasonable the last few votes. So we're hoping, well, I'm hoping, yes, with this proposal that we'll switch back to a static quorum model that most DAOs use, as I mentioned. It's super important that we do this because Gauntlet proposals aren't reaching quorum, which means they're unable to effectively manage risk in the Moonwell protocol. I'd encourage everyone, all MFAM holders, to vote on this ASAP just to get the word out. But I'm excited to share we just reached quorum, so hopefully that's the last time this will be an issue. But I will drop the proposal, the voting link just below if you haven't gotten Made Your Voice Heard yet. Then finally, I'm excited about being a delegate at Moonwell, and I really want to build out the delegate program. I've been such a fan of Gitcoins for such a long time, and makers, and seen all these models and written some random freelance work, and it's only got me like more interested. So with that, building out this delegate group at Moonwell, if you're interested in becoming a delegate or learning more about what being a delegate at Moonwell or in general is, or just want to jam governance stuff, please reach out to me. On Twitter, CoolHorseGirl2, I'll link it. Discord, CoolHorseGirl9538. But I'm sure you'll find me in the Moonwell server if you're interested. And next month we should have more on that, about sort of like official proposal to get more delegates. But anyone who wants to get in early, please give me a mention. Then with exciting updates next month, hopefully Tally times Moonwell should be a big launch within the next month. Decentralized governance is ever so important to me. I guess everyone in the DAO space. So you guys should be pretty excited too. But yeah, as always, feel free to reach out to me on Discord or Twitter or Telegram or one of the many. So thanks for your time, guys. I'll pass it over to Luke and Gokberk.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cool Horse Girl. It's really awesome to hear all the great work that you're doing and helping with the community in terms of building the DAO. And it was really interesting just kind of reflecting back on Moonwell Apollo. And for those of you that have been in the community for a long time, you're probably aware that like Moonwell Apollo is, and Moonriver is sort of it is basically the experimental zone, right? And I think people that have been in the Kusama ecosystem for a long time, sort of expect chaos, and it has always been sort of the goal to try new experiments in Moonriver. And the floating quorum was basically an experiment that we tried as a community. It has some desirable properties because as the token supply increases, then obviously the quorum can adjust as there's more circulating tokens. But what we've also learned as a community, I think, is that it introduces risk to the protocol, right? Because if some important risk parameter recommendations from Gauntlet can't pass reliably, that could potentially introduce unnecessary risk to the Moonwell protocol. And I think as a community, we've realized that that's sort of more important to reduce risk as opposed to having a floating quorum. And so it's a good learning experience for us as a community. And thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing to kind of, to help the DAO and to build out the delegates program. I really appreciate it. So with that, I guess let's invite Gokberk up, and I'm really excited to introduce Gokberk from Halborn Security. You know, you've been an amazing contributor and really helped us in a lot of audits that we've done on the Moonwell protocol and the core contracts and everything, as well as you know, your team has helped us not just in securing the smart contracts themselves, but also in securing other infrastructure like the front end itself and Cloudflare and other things. So, you know, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. If you don't mind, could you please start by introducing yourself to the audience?
Yep, of course. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on the Moonwell Community Call today. My name is Gokberk. You can call me Sky. I am the director of the special ops at the Halborn. Actually, before the blockchain, I spent like more than 10 years on the penetration testing red teaming on the Web2 space. Then in the last 3 years, especially I focused on the blockchain security at the Halborn. Yeah, currently working as a director of the security in the Halborn.
Awesome. And yeah, for, you know, as Eli mentioned, I think one of the things, you know, you've been on almost every audit, probably every audit of the smart contracts that we've done at Moonwell. And I think one of the things that we've always really felt strongly about as a community is that every smart contract that goes live in production has been audited, and every code change needs to be audited before it touches production or before it gets deployed. And not all projects do this, but it's been really great and awesome partnering with your team to make sure that that happens. So could you explain a little bit the process that Halborn follows when you're auditing Moonwell smart contracts, and talk a little bit about how this approach can kind of help our security?
Of course. In the Halborn, especially, we are follow up with the proactive approach. For example, in the last hacks, as you know, for example, with the one PR request, especially one exploit is conducted by the attackers. From that reason, every PR is published by the Moonwell development team. We are auditing them before going live. We are directly fixing with the developers. And we are ensuring that with that cycle, like it is like a software development life cycle, actually. With that one, we are achieving that 100% secure contracts usually. On our approach, especially, we are believing the static analysis, dynamic analysis, invariant testing, and other kind of methodologies during the audits. With this approach, actually, even if smart contracts are secure, sometimes, as you know, front-end security is so important too. Halborn is full stack actually security company. Even if, for example, many of the other companies are totally focusing on the smart contracts, especially we are caring about the front-end security, back-end security, and also cloud security.
Yeah, absolutely. And your team, you have worked really closely on a lot of the smart contract audits, but I think it's been awesome working with Halborn because, like I said, you've helped us on other areas as a community. For example, you know, like auditing the Cloudflare configuration to make sure that the front end is secure. You know, in the past, I think we've seen, you know, DeFi protocols be exploited because someone got unauthorized access to the front end and was able to, you know, kind of trick people to signing something with their wallet that was malicious. And so having this holistic security view across not only the contracts, but also the front end code, and even back end, like if we're using a node service, for example, making sure that's secure is very welcome, because you do kind of have to have this holistic approach. Like defense in depth, I think, is pretty popular. If you just secure the contracts, you can still, people can still lose funds if they hit a malicious front end or something, right? So, and it's been really great working with your team. So I guess one question I have for you is, can you share some examples of security improvements that have been implemented on Moonwell as a direct result of Halborn's audits and recommendations? I think you're on mute, Sky. If you...
Oh, sorry about that. As you know, in the Compound version 2 forks, usually there is some vulnerabilities existing by default in the code base. Especially we are trying to improvements in the dev cycle. For instance, I can give you a direct technical example about that. For example, ERC77 tokens in the re-entrancy vulnerabilities, especially in the existing in the compound forks. We have directly, like at the beginning of the mainnet, we directly fixed this issue during the audit. On the other hand, for example, in the governance side, we have added some kind of additional improvements and protection mechanisms in the contracts. Therefore, as a Halborn, even if, for example, we are believing that even if it's a fork, it does not mean it is a 100% secure. Therefore, we are trying to put some kind of additional mechanisms like a supply gaps or borrow gaps. And this is like, for example, for the unexpected behaviors, we are trying to protect the overall contracts every time. And as you told, also on the Cloudflare side or on the AWS or Google Cloud, doesn't matter. We always trying to ensure that all stack is secure enough, because with the single Cloudflare API compromise, for example, all infrastructure can be eliminated, and with that one, attacker can host a phishing page. But with that one, with the alert system, with the additional countermeasures, we are trying to prevent that type of attacks in the Moonwell, and it is really important to cover full stack security actually.
Yeah, absolutely. One example that I thought about when I asked this question was the check effect interaction pattern to prevent a whole class of reentrancy attacks. And so this is something we've seen, last year, for example, Rari Fuse, which is another Compound V2 fork, was hacked for over $100 million or something, because they had not taken care of check effect interaction, and so they were vulnerable to reentrancy. And I think this is a common mistake that a lot of forks make, is that they assume because they're forking a known code base that it's already secure, it's already been audited, but it's actually not always the case, and you actually have to recheck all your assumptions and audit everything again, because of these risks that exist. And I think your team has done a great job of keeping us safe as a community from a lot of these risks. So I wanted to ask about this. Well, first of all, I wanted to ask a little bit about bounty programs, because I think this is an important part to security story as well. So Moonwell utilizes Immunify for its bug bounty program. And to date, we've dispersed around $60,000 in rewards to security researchers and features. We have a maximum bounty payout of $250,000 for critical vulnerabilities. Can you shed a little bit of light on the critical role that bug bounty programs play in bolstering security for DeFi protocols like Moonwell?
Exactly, sure. In our perspective, especially bug bounty programs are useful. But in our perspective, without doing any audit in the protocol, and if you are opening any bug bounty program, you will encounter with so many false positives. But our suggestion is the firstly auditing the overall protocols, then going to bug bounty, because sometimes, for example, even if you are not vulnerable for the vulnerability, sometimes, for example, maybe your platform can be vulnerable. From that reason, to seeing the big picture in the space, bug bounty programs are so useful. Maybe one of the bug bounty hunter can suggest you additional improvements, and we can discuss about that. Maybe that can be really useful approach, because all these are usually is conducted on the predefined time. And on that side, we are trying to put all of our efforts with our colleagues. But on the other hand, after that, sometimes there can be always 0 day. For example, in the security space, unfortunately, there is no 100 security. But also, this can give another approach or additional vulnerabilities existing in the space, even if we are ensure that, for example, our smart contracts are not vulnerable. Sometimes it can be useful, but firstly, our suggestion is in the protocols, first it should be audited, then it should go to the bug bounty programs, and you can then, with the bug bounty programs, you are directly preventing the black hat behaviors usually. Actually, this is really useful from our perspective too.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think you're right. It's important to have the audits in place first, but the bug bounty can be an important part of security overall. So let's talk a little bit about more recent events. I think this is top of mind for the community because we all recently saw this happened. Can you provide an overview of the 100 Finance exploit and describe the role that Halborn played in responding to the situation?
Exactly, sure. In the Halborn Finance hack, actually, we are aware of this vulnerability like 6 or 7 months ago, and we already had some countermeasures in the Moonwell side. But at the beginning of the hack, there is two different HWBTC pools exist, and they are empty. In the compound side, there is some problems with the empty pools, and it is coming from the default, especially, for example, your contracts can get to multiple tokens from with multiple approach. Actually, one of the instance of it, you can define one function, and through that you can call some kind of ERC20 transfer functions. But on the other hand, maybe attacker directly can send tokens to the contract. But in the compound side, especially, there is one problem. They are directly using the exchange or stored variables with the total supply, and total supply is binding the contract balance. From that reason, attacker actually in the compound version 2 forks, whenever you have any empty pool, you are directly vulnerable for that type of attacks. From that reason, usually, actually there is two other case conducted by the attackers yesterday. One of them in the Polygon, and another one is the Binance Smart Chain. It is not big like 100 Finance, but still developers are forking the code and they don't understand the attack surfaces, and they are directly hacked. Actually, that was like a 100K yesterday is in the Polygon. From that reason, exploit is directly coming from the empty pools. If you don't have any empty pools, you are directly not vulnerable. But especially in our perspective, whenever you are forking any code base, you should check out what is the common pitfalls in the protocol. If you are not caring about, for example, that type of things, then you will directly vulnerable for the common pitfalls. Actually, that reason, on the 100 Finance hack, attacker is directly manipulated the empty pools. With that one, he's achieved that manipulation of the total supply. With the total supply, actually, he is able to change the exchange rate on the collaterals. That caused a huge make and drain of the funds of the another markets too.
Yeah, and it was really fascinating to me to watch how this happened, because it's this vulnerability actually has existed in Compound v2 on Ethereum mainnet for many years. But the reason why it's never been triggered is because there's never been a market on Compound besides maybe years ago, before this vulnerability was known, that was empty and had no liquidity providers. And so that's this unique situation that 100 Finance had, where they had an empty market with no liquidity providers in it. It was brand new. And they had collateral enabled on that brand new empty market. So the attacker, from what I understand, was able to deposit a small amount of BTC to this pool, manipulate the value of that so that it looked like the collateral was worth enough to borrow a lot of other assets from the protocol. And so it's fascinating because, like you said, these vulnerabilities can exist in well-trusted protocols like Uniswap, Compound, etc., that have been around for years, but they may, if you don't understand all the nuances of the protocol, or have an auditor like yourself that's able to do the deep research, you may not be aware of them, and so they can lead to loss of funds. So one of the things this has informed for the Moonwell community is, if you recall, like how new markets get added. So for example, the StellaSwap team was able to add the Tether market to Moonwell Artemis, and they were also able to add the BUSD market to Moonwell Artemis. And as these new markets get listed, it's informed the steps we need to take as a community before they get activated. So for example, not activating a new market with collateral, like before there's any liquidity providers, making sure that it's activated with no collateral can avoid this risk. Having a process where someone in the community actually mints a small amount, supply a small amount to a new market, and then burns those tokens by sending them to the burn address can actually mitigate that. And then we can safely enable collateral factor as a community later without having to risk all those assets being drained from the protocol. So anyways, we really appreciate it. The fact that your team was on call and willing to respond and was able to give us guidance on this is a new exploit, even though it's known, it was something that we hadn't seen actually be exploited in the wild before, was really reassuring to our community, and that we know we have kind of your eyes and ears on what's happening on chain, and it can inform things like pausing the protocol so that out of an abundance of caution, so that no funds are lost, even if there is a vulnerability. So really wanted to thank you for that. So in the aftermath of that hack, what steps did Halborn take to verify that Moonwell markets were not at risk or vulnerable to similar exploits?
Exactly. Actually, we have another service as a blue team. On the blue team's perspective, especially, we are actively watching so many different chains and so many different protocols. In the Moonwell, especially before the hack and during the hack, for example, hack of the 100 Finance, we were actively watching the Moonwell pools and Moonwell markets. Actually, from that reason, whenever if there is any issue is observed by our blue teams before the hack or after the hack or during the hack, doesn't matter. Usually we are taking an immediate response, and we are actively connecting with you, and we are creating the war room concept, even if it is an external hack. But in our approach, we have a global distributed team, and 24 hours, everyone is actively watching the others. Before the hacks or during the hacks, we are directly informed by our blue team members. But for the mitigation, especially in the 100 Finance blog post, as you can see in the postmortem, they mentioned that they will deactivate the redeem underlying function, but actually it is not correct. You cannot directly disable this function, but in the first section, in the first suggested step, it is correct. For example, as you know, there is a ERC 4626 vault, there is a one inflation attack, or for example, in the Uniswap pairs, they are directly minting first the small amount of the tokens into the zero address. With that one, actually total supply never will go to the zero. And in the Moonwell markets too, especially we follow up with the similar approach, and directly small amount, as you told, will be minted into the zero address. Then it will be considered in the community, and it will be directly fixed. But in the Moonwell, there was no risk. But even if there is no risk, we directly pause the pool, especially low liquidity pool, because of the reason of that. Maybe sometimes it can be unknown 0 day, but we didn't expect that. After the 1 hour, 2 hour, actually we wrote our POC on the exploit. Directly we understand, okay, we tried this exploit in our Moonwell markets, and we observed that there is no vulnerability in our markets, and we directly unpaused our contract actually.
Excellent. That's amazing. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all the info on the great work that your team is doing, you and your team are doing on improving security in Moonwell. For people out there that may be involved in other protocols, other DeFi apps or DAOs, if they want to reach out to Halborn and talk to your security team about audits or other services, how do they do that?
Yep, you can directly visit the halborn.com. We are offering different services: advanced penetration testing, smart contract audits, DevOps automation, and we have also security advisor as a service. And in the advanced penetration testing, we are doing a mobile web cloud penetration testing. We are helping on the DevOps life cycle, and also participating in some kind of DevSecOps life cycles. With that one, we are trying to review overall components existing in your infrastructure, in your smart contracts action.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
And now I'd like to turn it back over to Eli to close us out here with the Q&A session. Eli?
All right. Thank you, Luke. And thank you, Gokberk, for that insightful discussion. Moonwell community is lucky to have a contributing team like Halborn and their expertise in the security field. Brings us all a lot of relief to know that y'all have our backs. And thank you so much for joining the call today. Like Luke mentioned, I'm going to end the call here with some community questions. We had a ton, so I can't get to all of them, but I did want to get to a few. So starting with one from MXCT7, who he's been active in our Discord. He actually has a new forum post up. So thank you for your activity, MX. And his question is, I am very interested in when various new assets from the Polkadot ecosystem will be added to Moonwell. For example, Astar, Polkadex, Interlay, Equilibrium, and others. So great question. And I agree there's a growing number of great projects and assets in the Polkadot ecosystem. And it would be wonderful to see more markets and asset diversity on Moonwell. One thing to note is that adding new asset markets on Moonwell depends not only on community support, but also on economic and infrastructural dependencies such as DEX liquidity. And DEX liquidity ensures that liquidations can take place in a timely manner and that even the largest whales can be fully liquidated. Sorry, I have the newest Moonwell contributor right here, Tahani, and she's being a little bit of a wiggle worm, so but she'll be okay. And then another dependency, a technical dependency, would be Chainlink Oracle support. And this ensures that prices for supported assets are being reported accurately so that positions aren't being incorrectly liquidated. MX, to speak to a couple of the projects that you mentioned in your question, Astar actually recently came to Moonbeam in the form of XC Astar, which is exciting. And then Interlay community has previously engaged with the Moonwell community on the governance forum in regards to supporting IBTC on Moonwell. Currently, for both of these assets, liquidity in the ecosystem is probably a little bit low. But if you're interested in either of these, I would encourage you to, for IBTC, there is that existing forum post. Show your support on there, or a new forum post could be created about XC Astar. And then finally, one last thing to note around new markets is that the community has adopted Gauntlet Network's asset listing framework. And that's to guide those proposing new markets and to help the community properly evaluate these assets. So again, if you'd like to propose a new asset or just get the ball rolling, visit the Gov forum and start a discussion on the assets you would like to see supported. All right, question number 2 is from ManMaxMove. His question is, will auto staking be added for Well? By auto staking of Well, I'm assuming you're talking about like auto compounding of rewards. So right now, a user may go into Moonwell and manually claim Well rewards from borrowing or supplying on the protocol or from the safety module. And then they could take these Well rewards and then stake them in the safety module. By automatic compounding of Well rewards, potentially one could set a trigger where they could say every month or every 2 weeks, automatically claim my rewards and automatically stake them for me. This is a feature that feasibly could be implemented with the help of some of these smart contract automation projects in the space, like Oak Network or Gelato. And if you're interested in potentially seeing this type of functionality on Moonwell, you can participate in Gelato's post. They have an existing forum post on the Gov forum on this very topic, or engage with the Oak Network community in their Discord server. All right, question number 3 from Curly Bracket Effect. And I do want to give Curly a little shout out. A couple of days ago, we have an introduce yourself channel in the Discord, and he really had a great introduce yourself post explaining a little bit about his background, of himself, and why he's excited to be in the Moonwell community. So I encourage anyone who's new to the community or maybe has been lurking but hasn't really introduced themselves to follow Curly's precedent and introduce yourself. It's a great way to let your presence be known to the Moonwell community and just let people know about yourself. So thank you for that, Curly. And his question is, do you plan on expanding to any other parachains? If so, which ones? So currently the Moonwell community is primarily focused on the launch of Base mainnet, Coinbase's new L2, and the successful activation of the protocol on this new network. But if there is a specific parachain that you would like to see Moonwell activated on in the future, you're more than welcome to share this desire with the rest of the community, either in Discord or the governance forum. Okay, and we have this question was asked by two people, both UTKU and Akil. Basically, it's when airdrop. I did want to answer this and more as a PSA or public service announcement or safety announcement. There is no Moonwell airdrop. Any information about a Moonwell airdrop or messages you may receive are scams. Please do not engage. This also goes for Base, because I myself have seen tweets about a Base airdrop. There's been no official announcement of a Base airdrop. There's no plans at the moment for a Base governance token. And I just please be careful and cognizant of potential scams or fake airdrops. And then last question is from SupDup44. Will Moonwell expand its range of assets to LSD tokens? Really briefly, what is an LSD token? Because maybe not everyone is aware. So LSDs stand for liquid staked derivatives. You might also see them titled as LSTs, liquid staked tokens. And these are tokens created by liquid staking protocols like Lido, Rocket Pool, or Bifrost. And they enable users to retain liquidity while staking. So in traditional staking on proof of stake networks, they require users to lock up their tokens to secure the network, but those tokens are locked. So that prevents them from being used in DeFi, for example, like Moonwell, or participating in governance. Liquid staking fixes this by allowing users to deposit these tokens into a smart contract, which are then staked, but then they receive LSDs in return. And these tokens are designed to maintain the same value as the underlying staked tokens, but you get the LSD in return, and then you can transfer those, you can trade those, you can use them in DeFi applications. So LSDs are very much in vogue right now, very exciting. But I need to say that supporting them on Moonwell can pose some unique challenges. One of these unique challenges revolves around oracles. So like I was saying earlier, in regards to who asked this question, MX's question around Polkadot assets, having a Chainlink Oracle price feed is a prerequisite for adding a new market on Moonwell. So hypothetically, let's say someone wanted to create a new market on Moonwell for a synthetic or a liquid staked version of DOT, and they proposed using the Chainlink price feed for DOT itself for this new market. This could pose a problem because if for some reason that synthetic version, that LSD token that's minted, if there's more of those than the underlying asset, but the Chainlink price feed is still showing the price of just DOT itself, not the potentially depegged value, that could cause major issues for the protocol. So there are solutions being worked on. I know Chainlink has recently tweeted about their proof of reserves model, our system that would allow anyone to verify that synthetic assets like LSDs are fully backed, fully collateralized. Yeah, TLDR, it would be awesome. There are some unique challenges, and we'll see what the future holds. And then that's it for the community Q&A, and we are at time. But before we go, I do want to encourage you guys, if you're not a part of the Discord, the Moonwell Discord, please join us. We have an amazing community, amazing group of moderators. Any question you could possibly ask, we'll answer. We do fun events, giveaways. We're all like a lot of members of the Moonwell Discord and of the Lunar Labs team are pretty hardcore gamers. So join our gaming channel, play with us. And then for governance, there's been a ton of proposals. So I just want to thank everyone who has taken the time and the effort and the energy to vote on these proposals, to collect the Gov NFTs. You guys rock. Thank you so much. And very last thing, take Cool Horse Girl up on her ask. Ping her on Discord if you have any questions, if you're interested in becoming a delegate and taking on that responsibility of maintaining the protocol and shepherding through some of these important governance proposals like she has. The Moonwell community needs more delegates, good delegates. So take her up on that. But yeah, we'll close with that. Thank you guys so much for attending. Thank you to all of our wonderful guests, and I hope to see you in Discord soon. Bye, guys.